Let's jump to this next story. We'll start talking about families. We have this from the Post-Millennial. Paramount Plus sponsors drag event where child dances on stage for money. Ladies and gentlemen,
what is happening?
Just pull up the Wikipedia entry for stripper. And I can't do it here because it does have nude women in the Wikipedia. But what you need to understand is that stripping does not mean being nude.
Right.
Some strippers can't take their clothes off, but they're still considered strippers. They call them bikini bars. The Wikipedia entry actually shows it says bikini and go-go dancing. And it says the women have to be fully clothed. They have to cover their tops and bottoms. They dance on stage, and people give them money. At this event, it was a RuPaul's Drag Con. They had 2 children on stage, and this little boy was jumping and dancing around and taking money from people. This is grooming. This kid, what they do is they put this kid in an environment, and they say it's innocent. There's nothing sexual about it. The kid then gets, they normalize the behavior of dancing on stage for money from the audience. The way grooming would work, I'm not saying they will do it to this kid, but the way it would work is that after you do this, when the kid gets a little older, you then say, hey, it's going to be a swimsuit show. We're doing take your shirt off. Then they give you money. Then, we're going to do another swimsuit thing, but this one you have to wear these special swimsuits. And then they give them Speedos or something. That's how grooming works. It works on adults. There are people who are groomed into being sex workers through this. This is not the most egregious thing we've seen. There was Desmond is Amazing, who quite literally removed clothing on stage and then took money from people at a bar full of adults. They're grooming your kids. Paramount is sponsoring this. Discovery Plus is a child drag event. This is a reality.
It's almost like there's a lot of pedophiles in media or something like that.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, they normalize it one step at a time. And so here's the goal. They want you to look at this and say, well, it's just people dancing. Is it really that? And that's what they'll say to you. They'll say, it's just dancing. Right. They have to.
It's a drag show. It's a bunch of pervy dudes dressing up and trying to act like they're female dancers. And it's not innocent.
So what they'll do is they'll say, it's just like a costume show. What are you so mad about? Why are you so obsessed with this? I wonder why you care so much, Seamus.
That's the thing, right? Like, let's expose children to this because we care so much that it has to be forced onto young ones. And then when you point out that there's something wrong with that, you're the one putting inordinate attention on it.
So the family's been destroyed. There is, when I was covering this in my Timcast channel segment, there was a photo of Drag Queen Story Hour where there's these liberal parents smiling and laughing as they put their kids in front of this. They're into it. They like it.
I think it says something about where the parents are coming from, of course. And I hope this was a parody account, but it reminds me of on Twitter a couple of years ago, there was a woman, didn't say it was a parody account, who was complaining at being attacked because she had in her bio that she was transgendering her twin toddlers. I didn't even know what that meant. I had to think about it. It just,
Bill Maher.
I think it's a big reason why in Virginia, where I live, that's why, we had Glenn Youngkin win. I was a volunteer on his campaign, and a lot of it had to do with the schools and what was being taught in schools, and a lot of this gender ideology, which should not be taught in schools. It should be something, if you, as a parent, you have the right to teach your children your values. And Terry McAuliffe, the Democrat opponent, said no, that they shouldn't be telling teachers what to think. So I think, having worked on the campaign, I was there on election night. It gave me a lot of hope that there are a lot of parents who are pushing back on this. So
homeschool your kids.
Yeah.
There's no question about it at this point. Homeschool your kids.
Yeah, or private Christian schools or...
Even then, you really have to vet it.
That's true, too.
Really have to vet it.
The Christian schools have some of the same accreditation facilities that require them to do the things you'd be surprised that the public schools have to do. But there is a trend, as you guys know, and did a story on this in Full Measure recently, toward not just homeschooling, but there's pods now, there's groups, there's organizations in the neighborhood where they're getting actual more formal group education just outside the public school system. That parallel economy is forming. People are just deciding they don't agree with it, and if you keep going too radical in the school system, a parallel system is going to develop. I think we're there with the schools.
It's interesting because with the entire public school structure, which has been imitated by a lot of these private schools as well, the way the system has been set up, we take it for granted. But it really is very bizarre that the status quo is such that parents send their children to go off with complete strangers for basically the entire day, for basically their entire childhood. That is very strange.
And to learn not just stuff we consider traditional education, but all of their social values and their moral values and all the extra stuff that, as a parent, you kind of want to do yourself, usually.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think unfortunately a lot of
shocking to
parents don't. I think unfortunately a lot of parents don't want to do it themselves. It's very sad, but I think it happens a lot. They don't want to have uncomfortable conversations. There are people who will even say sex ed needs to be taught in schools. Why? Well, because I don't want to have that conversation with my kid. What's wrong with you? You want a stranger to?
They were raised in that system is what's wrong
Yeah,
with
that's
them.
also true. That's fair. That's a fair point.
Yeah, well, who was it who was talking about how kids who used to grow up on a farm knew about the birds and the bees? Because
Yeah,
Watch the animals.
I've mentioned that before. Well, when I was in high school, another student literally asked me the question, how did people learn about sex before sex ed? I'm not kidding. I was like, are you serious? I was like, well, because people were A, more closely connected to nature, B, people figure out how to do that on their own. The reason you have sex education, the reason adults need to talk to young people about that kind of thing is to tell them what not to do. That's the whole point. You're getting older, and X, Y, and Z, and this, you should know that, yes, you should be married to someone before you do X, Y, and Z. This makes children.
Well, Seamus, I think you got to be fair to these people. You see, before the advent of sex ed, humans had no idea how to reproduce.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
And
Weird.
Didn't know what was causing
We're
this
very
thing.
lucky we ended up.
we were very much like panda bears.
Yeah, we
until
were not smart.
aliens came and taught us about reproduction. And then we wrote it down in books, and now we have to teach kids. Otherwise, who knows what'll happen?
Well, the other thing was that we didn't know that men could get pregnant.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's
that's
something
true.
that we're only
That's
just
true.
now learning. And but I do have to do a plug for the bill that we talked about a little bit earlier. And if you all watching can go to womensbillofrights.com. We are pushing back on this at the federal level and also at the state level. So we just introduced a week and a half ago a bill, the Women's Bill of Rights, and it says it's a resolution to codify that a woman is a woman, and we define what a woman is through biological sex, that she has a uterus, that she has female reproductive organs. It's really pathetic that we have to spell this out, but we're doing it. And so we've had several members of Congress, including Democrat Katie Porter from Pennsylvania. So kudos to her. We're working also with the Women's Liberation Front, which is a hard left feminist group. And as a conservative group, we want to work with women who want to protect women's rights. And then we're also going to be moving it for the next phase to the state level as well. So you can contact your local legislature and say, we want this I want it in my state too. We're doing it at the federal level and at the state level.
So how do you define woman?
Well, on the website, we have it here. It's I can read it. For purposes of state federal law, a person's sex is defined as his or her biological sex, either male or female at birth. For purposes of state federal law. Yes. A female is an individual whose biological reproductive system is developed to produce ova. A male is an individual whose biological reproductive system is developed to fertilize the ova of a female. For purposes of state federal law, woman and girl refer to human females, and the term man and boy refer to human males.
So simple.
Well, there you go. I actually think it's a little complicated, because when you were mentioning, uterus and ova and all that stuff, I'm like,
that
You
stuff
could
is-
build one of those in the future. You
right?
could take an animal's uterus and put it in a...
The argument that they make is, what about a woman who's had a hysterectomy? Now she's not a woman
Right.
anymore, and it's like,
Very
look,
bad argument.
Yeah, but it works on weak-minded people.
Yeah.
That's why it's like adult human female and adult human male, and they're like, well, what's a male or what's a female? Oh, you want to read the biology of it all? Okay, now we
XXXY.
yeah.
But even that, it goes so much deeper, right? Because it's not as if we discovered the XX and XY chromosomes and went, oh my gosh, there's two categories of people
Right.
that we now know about. It's just been, it's obvious from the get-go. It's insane that we have to explain it to people now.
I think I don't know if you made this point last week. It was a really good point. Humans didn't discover the X and Y chromosome until recently.
Yeah.
But humans always knew there were
Exactly.
two kinds of people.
It
No,
wasn't created as a social construct for the purpose of, oppressing people. This is something I assume since the beginning of time, although I wasn't there, that has been recognized and accepted, without being controversial until really relatively recently.
I wouldn't be surprised if we already are starting to see the argument where they say that the X and Y chromosomes aren't real and that they were created to reinforce the patriarchal gender binary.
They will literally
Oh, that's
say
right, 'cause
anything.
science is sexist.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
say it was a bunch of white men
That's right.
who needed a legal way to, what was it called? Phrenology?
Yeah, with the
Was
head
it?
measuring.
Yeah, they would measure the heads. And
Yeah.
they wanted to justify racist ideas. So chromosomes, not a real thing, as it turns out.
Well, and this is because they do not use language the way human beings are supposed to use language. They're not trying to they're not trying to communicate any kind of truth, right? So when they talk about what a woman is, what insurrection is, what terrorism is, what violence is, they get it wrong constantly, right? They call men women. They call statements of fact about what a person's biology is violence. They call it terror. They don't call it terrorism to tell someone that they should bomb a public event that the former president of the United States is going to be at. Oh no, it was a joke. Well, he did get really passionate and he walked
Yeah,
it
it's
back.
true, yeah.
So I guess we're fine with it. But they literally use it to try to signal what they want. It's very sad and it's unbecoming. It's degrading. It's not how humans are supposed to use language. That's actually kind of the way that like dogs use language. When you tell your dog, sit, give me paw, he doesn't understand those words. He knows he'll get a treat. And that's what we have actual grown adult human beings walking around doing. Using words and only understanding them in the context that gets them what they want instead of the truth that's actually supposed to lie beneath the phrasing.
So let's dissect that a little bit. What you're saying is the dog basically hears rumble, and then when he knows to respond to that sound, he'll get a treat, but he doesn't understand the concepts or ideas behind what it means.
Exactly.
So
my dog does. But
Yeah, sure.
Well, yours is special. Your dog is very special.
smart,
You
Yeah.
have a
acknowledge
collie,
that.
right? The collie's the smartest breed, I think.
There you go. Yep.
I think I don't know if I agree with the dog analogy thing. I think it's fair to say you don't need to use it. You can just say there are people who don't understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
They just know that they can say certain words and they'll be rewarded.
Well, that's my point,
Case in
yeah.
point, we had a progressive on the show who said conservatives are saying trans people don't exist.
What?
And I said, what does that mean?
What?
And he was like, huh? I'm like, what does that mean? Like Ben Shapiro knows Blair White. He knows she exists. What does that mean? They don't think trans people exist. I'm like, okay, you're not telling me anything. And
Well,
that's your point.
Exactly. It's a
They
specific
only-
phrase to get their point across, to get what they want from you, to shame you
that's
instead
like-
of communicating an actual idea.
That's like transphobic, as we've talked about.
May as well be a grunt.
Exactly.
People called transphobic, often what the person calling them that means is you don't like the idea of trans people, but they're not afraid of trans people.
Right.
They are not transphobic.
Exactly.
I'm not sure how that word has become just accepted into the lexicon.
Well, same
of
thing as homophobic
everyday-
and all that.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, you're scared of gay people.
Not,
It's like-
not really.
Well, it's interesting. You made this point that it could just be a grunt. It's true that like any word could be a grunt. We make noises, and those noises are understood to have certain meanings. But what a human is supposed to be able to do is abstract with those noises, understand what they mean, use them honestly. My point with the dog analogy is whenever humans fail to live up to their rational potential, they behave animalistically.
You know, I think words are oppressive. English is a colonial language, and if we want to truly speak in a way that is representative of all human cultures,
Clicks and whistles.
grunts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's honest. And to be fair, when women aren't around, that is how men talk.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for
You're
letting
ahead
the
of
cat out of
us.
the bag there. Yeah.
Yeah, if you watch the Seamus Freedom Tunes members only, you know, I'll read the line as Dr. Fauci, like, you have to wear your mask, and then I'll look up at Seamus and go, whoa, and I'll go, oh, no, oh.
Well, Seamus, I have the antidote to your word question, and it's called the Woktionary.
Oh.
So we made this
yeah.
product with the Independent Women's Network. So you go to
Wonderful.
iwnetwork.com. I'll give you this after the show. You're
Thank
welcome
you.
to have it.
Yes.
It defines all these terms like white adjacent, systemic racism, triggered, restorative justice, implicit bias. It's all
Here, can I see
here.
it?
We spell it
I
out.
can't wait.
The real English. We give the real definition of what
Well,
it means.
to your point, I've asked people in my orbit, because I had to look this up. Everybody years ago started saying equity, equity, equity instead of equality. I'm like, but no one explained that. When journalists adopt these phrases of advocacy, I think they better know what I think they probably
yeah.
shouldn't usually, because more thought should go into it. You can quote somebody, but you shouldn't be adopting it. And I looked up equity, and it's, as you guys probably know, but I think a lot of ordinary folks, we don't, totally different than equality. And if you ask young people using that phrase, and it's just, ubiquitous today, most people can't define equity versus equality.
Exactly.
they
Because they don't
don't.
need to. You say the word, you get the treat.
Well, it's equal outcomes versus equal opportunity. That's equity is socialism. Equality is equality of opportunity.
Meritocracy.
Exactly.
They do not like meritocracy at all.
Nope, that's
equity,
racist.
Equity to me is the notion of you predefine people based on your understanding without knowing somebody of what their skill set is or what their abilities are, and you tell them based on something like skin color that they can't do something as well as everybody else and they need help. I mean, that's how I describe equity, where there are other people who don't. And that you're telling, to me, it's almost the opposite of what the goal is, because you're labeling a certain group of people based on nothing but
if you look at the arguments they make, it's one group has privileges and so they should be held back. Other groups have disadvantages, so they should be pushed forward.
Yeah.
So equity is hobble those who are successful. It's cut off the tall grass. It's typical communist ideology.
Yeah, exactly.
But as a kid in America who, in my generation, we were all told whatever color we wore, this was our thing, is you can be anything, and that's what we thought. I hear women today talking about, I want my daughter to know that, women could even be doctors. I'm like, we knew that in the 1960s. Like, who told you in 1990 or 2000 that wasn't possible? Because we've been through all this.
I really don't think they think about it. They're living in an insane fantasy land. They have a persecution complex. Everything's The Handmaid's Tale, right?
There was some comic that someone posted where it's this little black girl is in school and she's asked what she wants to be when she grows up or something. And she says, I want to be an astronaut. And the teacher goes, that's great. And she goes, what? And the teacher's like, that's fantastic. And the girl says, no, you're supposed to tell me I can't do it because I'm a woman. And she was like, but you can do it. It doesn't matter. And then she was like, this famous astronaut that I'm a big fan of was told she couldn't do it. So she, fought against it and rose to be the best. And she was like, yes, and because of her, you now can do it. And no one's holding you back. And then it just shows like the panel of the girl like shocked and confused. But it's fascinating because I've experienced this, that in the modern era, these activists actually tell people you can't succeed.
That's what I'm saying.
Because of your race.
Right.
So don't try. It's their fault.
But
Have a
to
nice
kids
day.
who wouldn't have occurred to them because that wasn't the case, and they're suddenly identified at a fairly early age now and told that you are different and you can't do things.
That's what our Winsome Sears, our lieutenant governor in Virginia, who was Youngkin's running mate, she said that's what CRT does. It makes the light in the child's eyes. If you tell, and she's black herself, and she said, if you tell black children you can't succeed, you're inherently flawed, why would we even think they would try?
Right.
Of course they're going to fall, into gangs and drugs because we keep telling them that they're victims and that they're hopeless.
Well, I said it before, but is it surprising to anybody that the group of people advocating for less population are favoring policies that result in destroyed families, destroyed economies, sterilization of children, and outright abortion of children?
The Planned Parenthood thing, I thought, was a conspiracy theory
No?
for years, and now they're having to grapple with it.
Which one?
Which part of
Well,
it?
what's the
Margaret Sanger?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
a late. By the way, I'm a very late comer to politics, so I'm one of the
Oh,
people
yeah.
you guys are talking about sometimes. But
But you were a journalist
Margaret Sanger,
for a long time.
was part of wanting to apparently shape and annihilate, the black population. Yep. And now Planned Parenthood is having to grapple with that. And on their website, they address this, the fact that that was the case and how they feel about that now. And, that's a very tough thing for them. But
I read, it was a fact check. I think it was, which one of those fact checkers, maybe it was the Washington Post
Yes,
fact
we
checker.
were just talking. I was just going to bring that up.
It was insane about the KKK rally because someone said, Margaret Sanger spoke at KKK rallies. And so they did fact check about whether that was true. And they said, no, actually she only spoke at one KKK event, and it was a women's KKK event. It was
that's good.
like the women who are attached to the men in the KKK. So it was like a women's KKK event.
Okay.
And she
Empowering.
had a pure intention for going there. She was just trying to spread her message of birth control to whoever would listen. So they literally said it was okay that she went to a KKK event because she was trying to teach about birth control to everybody, no matter who would listen. So she and I was just like, do you hear what you're saying?
I want to give
insane.
I got to address, Michael Malice, who's a big friend of the show and a good friend of mine. He's argued this is not true about Margaret Sanger, and I recently was talking to him, and he was like, no, this is not true. She was advocating for birth control. She was trying to end poverty by telling these women, and I'm just like, I hear your argument, dude, but I pulled up PlannedParenthood.org that outright calls her racist.
She's a eugenicist.
Well, she was a eugenicist,
Planned-
and
She was
she's
a-
quoted.
Was, yeah.
Planned Parenthood calls her racist.
Yep, she's actually.
I suppose it's I think Michael's a very smart guy and I respect him a whole lot, but I don't understand how his point can be correct that she wasn't. Maybe I got something wrong in what he was saying. But they actually say she believed in an inherently racist and ableist ideology that labeled certain people unfit to have children. She believed in eugenics. We denounce her beliefs in eugenics. She was going to the black community specifically, telling them to stop having kids. Sounds like she was racist. I don't know, whatever. Everybody was racist back then to varying degrees, right? They were racist against Irish people, right?
I mean,
Seamus?
And what's so bizarre is that there's such a total disconnect between that fact and then the outcome of the disparity of the proportion of black children who are then killed. I think the ratio is like 4 or 5, 5 to 1 black to white babies. But yet black people are a much smaller percentage of the population. So her vision has been realized. Like, she got what she was dreaming for. And that's what's disgusting is, like, Planned Parenthood doesn't acknowledge this.
I was watching a video from, it was actually some, like, critical race theorist guy who pointed this out. It was like a black identitarian guy saying, Margaret Sanger was racist. Planned Parenthood says she's racist. And they were explaining how if the black population wasn't getting abortions at the rate they were, they would be a substantially larger portion of the U.S. population by now. But you were mentioning it's like 5 to 1.
Oh yeah, they were the second largest minority group ahead of Latinos. But because of abortion, black people are more likely to abort than Latinos. Now Latinos have surpassed Black Americans as the biggest, second biggest group.
What was that the conspiracy theory you're talking about, or are you talking about selling baby parts or something?
Well,
that's
that
fun
too.
too. That's great.
I found out about Margaret Sanger because an African American girlfriend of my brother some years ago referred to it, and it surprised me because I had always just heard it in passing and didn't put any thought into that being possibly true. Yeah. But she said, "Oh, black people know this," and I started. So I looked it up, and
Yeah, we had Daryl Davis on, and he's gone relatively woke. He used to talk to members of the KKK and talk them out of that ideology. And he said that his mother knew even then, like a long time ago, she knew that they were like trying to use black people to, for example, we all know about, the Tuskegee experiments and stuff like that. He said that they understood that Planned Parenthood was kind of a little bit of an extension of that. I'm paraphrasing him. I don't misquote him, but my understanding was that they knew that that's what Planned Parenthood was going for, which was like really eye-opening for me. I was like, they knew. It was very much common knowledge, and it was just one of those things. They just accepted it.
No, but not only do they accept it, they promote it. Like they say, these white supremacists who are pro-life, they want to hold back black women. So it's a moral good for black women to want to abort their children. Yeah. And good on Senator Tim Scott because he called out Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen said, if we had, fewer abortions in the past, then that we would have had a much smaller GDP growth. And Tim Scott said, as the black son of a single mother, I am so glad that she did not share your view, basically.
So I just want to issue a clarification. According to Planned Parenthood, they're not selling tissue; they're donating it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So when
but that was Project Veritas.
Donating it for money.
But didn't Project Veritas do videos about this?
I can't remember if it was Veritas.
It was money.
I also ask people to look up because you can find not the story but the press announcement. ABC a couple of years ago with one of my former producers, Kim Skeen, and Chris Wallace, who worked at ABC at the time, because Kim turned me on to this. Back when you could cover normal stories that people cared about in a normal way as a journalist without getting canceled, they did a story on the sale of body parts, by fetal body parts, and the market among the pharmaceutical industry and others for clinical study and all kinds of things. And again, that story's nowhere to be found on the internet, but if you Google or DuckDuckGo, your choice, whatever.
ABC's 2022 air report on fetal tissue trafficking,
yes,
March 1st,
read a little
2000.
bit of that. Read about how much they were paying for, I think, a brain.
There was literally a quote from one of the directors of Planned Parenthood saying she wanted to buy a new car. Yeah. Unbelievable. So I don't care if they say they're donating it. I do not believe it.
Today it's Project Veritas. What I'm telling you is not long ago, ABC News and Chris Wallace were doing this kind of reporting when reporters were, more open to doing neutral stories on important controversies.
Mm-hmm. And so the organization, I don't believe it was oh man, I'm blanking on the name, Veritas. It was the Center for Medical Progress. And what they did is after they filmed these employees of Planned Parenthood and representatives haggling over the price of fetal tissue, they edited it, yes, but they placed the full unedited footage on the internet for anyone to watch if they wanted to.
And they got in trouble, right? Like
Yeah,
everything on
but-
the news is edited at some point if it's not just a full, raw, hour-long tape. So
Well, and the reason, if I understand properly, that David Daleiden actually got in trouble was just because of two-party consent laws with respect to filming people. It wasn't because he edited anything deceptively or dishonestly.
right.
And
I'm just saying
literally
that was an
clip.
argument
Yeah,
that,
yeah, of
that,
course.
that used to not be an argument, and I saw that raised when I was doing at CBS, not about me, but when people wanted to make controversies, all of a sudden opposing people politically would say that tape was edited. I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
all of our tapes are edited.
Everything.
you know?
And people who are deceptively editing a tape do not place the entirety of the footage online for everyone to be able to watch it.
So this was a big story in 2015. Undercover video shows Planned Parenthood official discussing fetal organs used for research. They responded to it saying it's tissue donation.
But in the
Yes.
video, so in the footage, the woman literally says,
They're discussing
whoever
prices.
throws out, yes, she says whoever throws out a figure in a negotiation first loses. Yeah, that, the thing you say when you're donating something to somebody. Insanity.
Now,
But what does donation mean, right? They don't
Yeah.
know what words mean, or they don't use them properly. They are intentionally
say,
deceptive. What does
again,
donation mean?
You say you're paying for time and transportation of the stuff and to have it preserved, so that there's all kinds of ways to say you're not paying for the tissue, but in fact,
Seamus, I'm going to donate this Woktionary to you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, can you spot me $20?
Yeah, of course, man.
Right
you
on.
got to make a profit off your donations.
That's right,
That's
yeah.
what
Oh, no,
donating
no.
means.
He didn't.
You got to pay for the lights and the.
I
you
sold
were
him
sitting
nothing.
here.
Yeah.
He didn't sell me anything. I just happened
the
to give
effort you
him
had
money.
to use to hand him,
By the
hand
way,
him the pamphlet.
Carpal tunnel risk.
I really wish the Planned Parenthood defense would catch on with the IRS. Like, no, that wasn't work. I didn't sell that. I donated that. But I mean, I happen to make money, but it was
Something
different.
tells me that the IRS isn't going to be concerned about that.
No.
Federal agencies are not going to go after the left in this way.
ever.
Look at what happened with Donald Trump and Russiagate. One of the biggest now we're looking at the Sussman trial with what's going on. Hillary Clinton knowing about and signing off on a lot of the stuff. Some of the most shocking revelations we've heard in a long time. Russiagate was staged. It was fake. It was a hoax, tricking the government. Many elements of the government, the FBI knew it was fake. They went after it anyway. Wow.
I was gonna say, like, how many of them were really tricked? is
So
the
we got a
question.
couple guys,
Which was
a
part
couple-
of his defense, actually.
Yeah.
The Sussman, that was his defense, was like, well, they already knew, so I wasn't actually, it was immaterial if I was lying.
Well, and the FBI's
crazy.
defense is we didn't know that they're such bad at their jobs when they're supposed
We
to be
had no
top
idea
federal
they were so
agents that they don't even do due diligence when a political operative brings them research on one of the most sensitive things they could do, which is an opposing political campaign. My sources at FBI tell me they used to not go, within a mile of an investigation like that. It was so controversial. Just to avoid any appearance of conflict, they stayed away from journalists and political figures, at least the honest guys. And now we're to believe that they didn't even do due diligence when they're handed, opposition research.
Well,
and
it was
tips.
because he knew him personally, because Sussman had worked formerly at the FBI. And
Even
fun
more
fact,
so, they
the,
should have questioned
the guy who
the
he met
background.
with, James Baker, was my former professor at
Wow.
Harvard Law School. Actually, a good person. And he's the one who I think is at the center of the damning text messages that he's reported. So
Right,
good on
right.
him. So
Wow.
yeah.
Do we know if he lied or if he just got passionate in the moment and then walked it back?
It was a passionate text
Yeah.
message.
He was joking.
They're walking it back
Joke.
now,
It was
so
a joke.
it's okay.
The whole thing.
No harm, no foul.
Can't wait for them to apologize.
Saying
Robbie-
double standard
Dave Smith always said.
at this point is like nails on a chalkboard, because it's
Yeah,
like yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
we know. It's not it's some 16-year-old is going to start watching the news and then go to his dad and be like, Dad, there's a double standard. He's going to go, oh, son.
I
It's not
remember when
news.
I thought that was going to be the case. Yeah, I think it's Dave Smith and Robbie Bernstein always make this joke like, oh no, we're waiting for an apology on that. It's going to come any day. They're going to apologize for that any day.
Any day.
Like, I'm
Listen.
sure.
Carter Page, last time I checked, the former Trump campaign associate who was improperly spied upon with doctored evidence from the FBI, who, by the way, had never met or talked to or communicated with Donald Trump directly, but through a wiretap improperly done on Carter Page, Donald Trump's communications could be captured the way they allow themselves to capture all the communications of those in orbit around the one wiretap person. To this day, as far as I know, he has not received so much as an apology. In fact, his efforts at his own expense to try to get some, let's say, equity in court over all that happened to him have just gone unanswered. His case has been thrown out. The FBI has not said so much as, now that we've convicted the one lawyer, if nothing else, of doctoring a document in your case. We're sorry. Nothing. Just standing
Oh, and he
by.
only got probation. He got I think 400 hours of community service, although he should have spent a year in jail.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.